In 2024, OSHA updated its existing hazard communication standard to primarily align with Revision 7 of the United Nations Globally Harmonized System of Classification and Labeling of Chemicals, or GHS for short. The final rule updates the criteria for several health and physical hazard classes to provide better information to employees. It also contains revised provisions for labeling small containers and the relabeling of chemicals that have been released for shipment, amendments to the contents of safety data sheets, and new provisions related to concentrations or concentration ranges being claimed as trade secrets. So let's take a look at these changes in more detail. A quick disclaimer: our training courses are designed to assist you in complying with OSH regulations. Because of the variations that can occur due to on-site conditions or performance criteria, it is impossible for any course to cover every aspect of those potential variations. Therefore, this course does not cover everything a person should know about a particular subject, nor does it qualify anyone as a competent or qualified person. However, our courses do cover part of the information that any person must know to be effective in applying safety and health standards and practices to circumstances in the workplace. All right, first up, OSHA has added some new definitions to the hazard communication standard. OSHA has added definitions of solid, liquid, and gases. Notably, it also added a definition of combustible dust. And while OSHA does not have a combustible dust standard, this new definition will aid in the enforcement of these types of hazards in the workplace. And further, they added new definitions for bulk shipments, immediate outer package, and release for shipment for better understanding of labels on shipped containers. And lastly, an added definition of PLCP, which stands for physician or other licensed healthcare professional. Additionally, OSHA has also removed some definitions. Notably, they removed the definition of pyrophoric gas. OSHA has also made some changes to hazard classification. When employers are required to classify the chemicals they are producing or importing, they must also now include any hazards associated with the chemical's intrinsic properties, including a change in the chemical's physical form and chemical reaction products associated with known or reasonably anticipated uses or applications. When dealing with bulk shipment of materials, that is, when any hazardous chemical is transported where the mode of transportation comprises the immediate container, the label for bulk shipments of hazardous chemicals must be on the immediate container, transmitted with the shipping papers or the bills of lading, or with the agreement of the receiving entity. It can be transmitted by technological or electronic means so that it is immediately available to workers in printed form on the receiving end of the shipment. Additionally, if a pictogram is required by the Department of Transportation and appears on the ship container, then the pictogram would not be required to be on the label. When updating labels for chemicals that have been released for shipment and are awaiting future distribution, chemical manufacturers, importers, distributors, or employers have the option not to relabel those containers. However, if they do not relabel the containers, they must provide the updated label for each individual container with each shipment. When dealing with small shipping container labels, that is, containers that are 100 milliliters or less, OSHA has recognized the difficulty in adding a GHS-style label to a container of this size, and has amended the standard to add a section for small container labeling, so employers and manufacturers have some flexibility when creating these labels. When creating these labels for small containers, OSHA has allowed for some information to be left off the immediate container label, but would require that the small container be placed in a secondary outer package, which would then have to have the full label information. Lastly, OSHA has made some changes to its definition of trade secrets. Specifically, when dealing with concentration ranges on safety data sheet, the standard now has prescribed ranges of concentrations that are to be used when supplying this information on the safety data sheets. And shown here are the concentrations that must be employed if concentration range is being claimed as a trade secret. The prescribed concentration range that will be used by the employer when creating the label must be the narrowest range possible from the list of concentration ranges, but manufacturers may employ a more narrow range if they choose to do so. To allow all employers to come in compliance with these changes, OSHA has added new effective dates for the standard. All manufacturers, importers, and distributors evaluating substances shall be in compliance with all modified provisions of this section no later than January 19th, 2026. And for any alternative workplace labeling systems that are employed, must be updated no later than July 20th, 2026. And OSHA has added a little extra time for those who are evaluating and classifying mixtures of substances. Those dates are July 19th, 2027 for those that are classifying these substances, and January 19th, 2028 for all updated alternative workplace labeling. For more free online learning opportunities, please visit our website at kysafe.ky.gov. Thank you for watching this presentation.